people of the United States.
In order to form a more perfect union.
To establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility,
and provide for the common defense.
Promote the general welfare.
And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity.
To ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Constitution Week.
Back to you, Carl!
Well, thanks to those students in Michigan at St. John the Evangelist Catholic School. They added a perfect preamble to today's show. We are going to have more on the Constitution in just a few minutes. First, though, we're reporting on a shooting in Washington. At 8:20 yesterday morning, shots were fired inside the Washington Navy Yard. This is the U.S. Navy's oldest land establishment and its largest system command facility. It's also a workplace for 3,000 members of the military and civilian contractors. As the story unfolded yesterday, authorities said a suspected shooter was dead. He was identified as Aaron Alexis, a 34-year-old military contractor. Police said one other gunman could be on the loose. It was unclear why the shooting happened. Emergency personnel, the FBI, U.S. Capitol Police, and D.C. Police all responded to the attack. A team of special agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives was also sent to the scene. That's the same group that helped capture the Boston Marathon bombing suspect. Nearby government buildings went into lockdown. So did several schools in the area. Officials said at least 12 people were killed in the shooting. Another 12 were injured. A spokeswoman at a Washington hospital said 3 victims who were taken to that facility are expected to make full recoveries. Next story today is out in Colorado. The city of Boulder just set a new record for annual precipitation. The thing is, there are still 3.5 months left in the year. The flooding in Colorado has been devastating. Yesterday, more than 1,000 people who had been cut off were waiting to be rescued. Authorities were talking about dropping in food and water to keep them going. One person said there are now rivers where there have never been rivers or even water before. He described the situation as surreal.
It was what to grab, where to go, total chaos and confusion.
Never seen anything like this. This is just mind-boggling.
We have lost all accessibility to getting out of our homes as the roads have collapsed.
It felt like I was in literally a horror movie. I felt like there was no way out.
Is this legit? Sarin is a chemical compound. It's true. Sarin can be used as a chemical weapon. The word comes from the names of scientists who invented it.
The United Nations says it has clear and convincing evidence that sarin gas was used in Syria last month, and it was used on a relatively large scale. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon gave the results of an investigation yesterday. He called the use of chemical weapons a war crime and said whoever's responsible should be held accountable. The report did not assign blame for the attack. We've also been reporting on a deal between the U.S. and Russia for Syria to hand over control of its chemical weapons. Yesterday, we mentioned that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry made a statement that the threat of force against Syria is still an option to make sure Syria follows through. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov disagrees. He says Secretary Kerry is misunderstanding the deal if he thinks force is still an option. It was a 1-2 punch for Mexico. Hurricane Ingrid made landfall in the country's east coast Monday, not long after Tropical Storm Manuel hit the west over the weekend. The results? Flooding, rivers spilling over their banks, mudslides, roads washing out. At least 21 people have been killed across Mexico, and even though these storm systems have weakened, the rain continued to fall. Despite Mexico's position between the Pacific and the Caribbean, its National Weather Service says it's very unusual for Mexico to get hit by a tropical storm and a hurricane at the same time. Another natural disaster erupted in Indonesia over the weekend. Mount Sinabung showered nearby buildings and cars and ashes and forced the evacuation of thousands. Some folks had to go to the hospital after inhaling volcanic ash. Mount Sinabung is located on the western Indonesian island of Sumatra. It's the tallest mountain there, and it last erupted in 2010. Don't forget about your chance to meet Malala Yousafzai, the girl who was shot by the Taliban because she wanted to go to school. Students 13 to 18 in the 48 contiguous states can submit an essay explaining how they've been inspired by Malala's work. Full rules for the contest can be found at the URL you see below and the entry form at cnnstudentnews.com. But do not wait. The deadline to submit essays is 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night.
It's time for the shout out. In what city was the U.S. Constitution signed? If you think you know it, then shout it out. Was it in Washington, New York, Boston, or Philadelphia? You've got 3 seconds. Go. The Constitution was signed in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's your answer and that's your shout out. Now, as for when that happened, check this out.
It's Constitution Day. On this date in 1787, 39 delegates to the Constitutional Convention signed the document that today is the oldest written constitution still in use by any government. We're finding out how much you know about the U.S. Constitution, starting with some fun true or false questions. All right, number 1. The word democracy appears in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Answer: false. The word democracy doesn't actually appear anywhere in the document. Next, Benjamin Franklin was the oldest person to sign the Constitution. This is true. He was 81 and in declining health, so he needed someone to help him sign it. And it's said that as he did, tears were streaming down his face. 3. Some delegates to the convention refused to sign the Constitution. Answer: true. Of the 6 delegates who did not sign, 3 of them, Edmund Randolph and George Mason of Virginia and Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts, refused to do so, partly because the Constitution didn't have a Bill of Rights. Those amendments guaranteeing individual liberties were proposed 2 years later. Moving on, 2 future U.S. presidents signed the Constitution. One was George Washington. Who was the other? We'll give you some options on this one. Was it John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, or James Monroe? The answer: C. James Madison. Madison's also called the father of the Constitution because he contributed so much to it. Since the ratification of the Bill of Rights in 1791, how many additional amendments have been added to the Constitution? Is the answer 7, 10, 12, or 17? If you said D, 17, you got it. That last amendment, the 27th, says that a pay raise for members of Congress cannot take effect until after an election. Now, which branch of the U.S. government is mentioned first in the Constitution? Is it the legislative, judicial, or executive? Answer A. The legislative branch's powers are laid out in Article 1 of the Constitution. This is the branch that includes the House of Representatives and the Senate, and it's charged with making the laws that govern the country. Finally, where can you find the original copy of the Constitution? Is it in Fort Knox, Kentucky, the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian Institution, or the National Archives? Answer D. The National Archives building in Washington, D.C. To preserve the quality of the document, it is kept at 67 degrees Fahrenheit and 40% humidity. And you could say that fascinating fact constitutes our Constitution Day quiz. All right, in today's roll call, the ayes have it. Iowa, Indiana, and Illinois. Let's go to the map. First up, Lawrence, Iowa, and the Chargers from Lawrence Marathon. Thanks for watching, everyone. Over in Indiana, we're checking in with Christ the King School in Evansville. Glad to see you. And the Redskins at Morris Community High in Morris, Illinois. They round out today's roll. Joey Chestnut is wrapping up the competitive eating season with 6 contests in 6 weeks. This was number 1, a pie eating contest in Ohio. Chestnut took home the title because he gobbled up 13 pies in 8 minutes. For those of you who do the math, that's 1 pie every 37 seconds. He said his strategy includes getting into a rhythm, drinking water, and not overstuffing his mouth. Whatever you say, Joey. After the event, he said he even had room for another pie. I guess there wasn't enough filling about the first 13. So, can Chestnut meet his goal and go 6 for 6? Some people may think that's pie in the sky. The whole plan is half-baked. But based on his track record, could be easy as pie. After all, he has the strategy down, so it's just all a mode of technique. Why do we serve up so many pie puns? Just be crust. That's all we have for today, so we'll see you tomorrow. For CNN Student News, I'm Carl Azuz.